Today I'm going to talk a little bit about some left-hand exercises you can do to get used to playing in the first position for improvising, for arranging, whatever you're going to do. This is transferable up the neck, and I cover that in later lessons, both in my books, but also I'm going to try to do some videos this year for that as well. We're going to base everything out of the caged position. I should say that most all these ideas roughly are going to be available in PDF form. They're coming from the appendix of my Fingerpicking book 1 that you can find on my website. If you click the link, you'll be able to get there. And so, you know, just kind of grab that if you need to, or just follow along. We're just going to be using, like I said, this caged scales in the first position, being C, A, G, E, and some forms of D inversions, but we'll talk about that in a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about just kind of playing a chromatic scale on the top 3 strings that'll be the same for every single one of the chord shapes that we're going to be using, or chord positions. Mostly they're not major or minor because the third isn't in the base of the chord except for the C and the G, although we can avoid it if we want to. So, you know, consider that when you're improvising, but also, you know, don't worry about it because we're just doing this as an exercise to kind of play around. When I talk to students about improvising in these, in the first position, in the beginning, it's really difficult, and I kind of say just grab whatever you can. It's not the greatest advice, but, you know, it is kind of what you want to start doing. If you have an available finger, you know, go for it. But, you know, you still got to practice some ideas in order to get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this chromatic scale and we'll go ahead and play it. I'll tell you both note-wise and then just kind of like fret string-wise. Starting with the 3rd string G, we're going to just go up chromatically as high as we can. Usually the A, but sometimes just the G sharp. Whatever you can reach is fine. And if it's a tough reach down here, you know, put a capo up the neck and try it that way, and then slowly move down. So the notes we're going to play are G, G sharp, A sharp, or B flat, C, B, C sharp, D flat, D sharp, E flat, E, F sharp, G flat, G, G sharp, A flat, and then if you can, get that A. In the bass, what we're going to do in the bass strings is just play a simple bass movement between 2 strings. For 5th string root chords, it'll be 5 to 4. So for the C chord, we're just going to be going back and forth like this. And as you play that, you're going to, you know, try to get the chromatic scale to line up. I should say it now with frets and strings. So 0 on the 3rd string, 1, 2, 3, 0 on the 2nd string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0 on the 1st string, 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you can. So going back to the C chord in the bass, you know, you just want to keep that going as a quarter note and then just go up the scale, the chromatic scale on each string. What I'm trying to do is just keep my fingers assigned. So the index is on the 3rd, the middle is on the 2nd, and the ring or the A finger is on the 1st string. And whatever's good for you, go ahead. I recommend this, but you know, do what you want to do. So if we played them together, it would sound ascending and descending off the C chord like this. Okay. Now, you might wonder why I'm not using my 2nd finger to fret those notes. I took a workshop with Duck Baker years ago, and he talked about, you know, keeping the low notes of the chord fretted and trying to keep your fingers there so your hand doesn't get confused when you're moving them around. And I found that to be extremely good advice. So I try to avoid it, taking the finger off, like to take my 2nd finger and move it up as much as possible, but you know, do what works for you. That's the nature of the guitar. If you run into trouble, then you're going to have to solve the problem, which is also the nature of the guitar. So, like, just get used to that. I like that method, and that's what I'm going to do. So now, after the C, we can do the A. And the A, we're just going to kind of hold this finger down on the 2nd fret of the 4th string to get the 2 basses between 5 and 4 again. And and play up the neck with our other 4 fingers. I'm thinking this position when I play the A chord, or this fingering, which would be the second finger, first finger, and third finger on the 2 or 4, 3, and 2 strings with the second fret. I know a lot of people play it like this. I definitely don't do that. This is easier for finger picking. You have more available fingers, and also they just tuck in more nicely. And every other, first position chord is essentially, in the same position when you do that. But again, do what you want. It's going to be hard to get some of the first fret though if you do that. I also sometimes bar. You just want more than one way to do stuff, basically. So here's the A using the chromatic scale. Okay, and there's some different fingerings I would sometimes do. Like I'd also sometimes keep my third finger down if I was playing a major chord and just try to get these 2 guys going. But if it was a minor, then, not all these notes are going to work. But the way that I like to think is in major, minor, and dominant, which is, I took that from Joe Pass. I mean, I kind of was already doing that. And then when I watched one of his videos, I thought, yeah, that's what he said. And it makes a lot of sense. Even augmented and diminished chords usually function as dominant. And anything that you're doing is just extensions. You have to consider your fifths if they're altered, in those augmented and diminished and things. But, mainly you're just playing these basic chord forms with extensions. And if you know where all these notes are available relative to a position, whether it's in the first position or it's up the neck in a block position, then just knowing how to play, major, minors, maybe your 7th sets, then you're able to just grab the notes that you need. And as a finger picker or just a guitar player in general, you have to leave a lot of stuff out. So if you're getting your fingers all tied up in these, chord voicings that really you're not going to use, then you're kind of wasting time. But you're also going to have to fight your way out of that if you're trying to arrange something. And that's a good thing to keep in mind. If you just think in terms of harmony and melody, so basic harmony and then the melody and how it goes with the chord, then, you'll be able to find these notes without really thinking about those shapes as much. And you'll fall into those shapes doing it, but it's just a better idea, I think. And that's how I teach. So that's exactly how the Fingerpicking book 1 is laid out. But anyways, let's keep going. So there's A. So now let's do G. Now G, you can avoid that 5th string, which gives you the major third. So if this was a G minor, you could kind of make it work as well. But we're just going to do this basic 6-4. You could also do a more complicated 6-4-5-4 bass movement if you want to, but keep it simple. So we're going to do the exact same thing, full chromatic, see how high we can go. Flew a little too close to the sun there. That's a hard one. If you hold your third finger on the 3 and get that A up there with that 4th finger, try it. Even if you're not going to do it. I mean, I probably wouldn't do that. If I had to get that A, I'd just throw my thumb down here and play G out of that position, which is totally legit, and it's a good way to do it, really. But anyways, for our purposes, we're just trying it. Just go for it, and you'd be surprised. Okay, so now E, same thing as the G, where you're just moving 6-4. We're going to do that chromatic, starting on 0. Okay, so, again, getting kind of tough to get up there, but give it a shot. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, the D is the only chord that isn't on the 5th or 6th string. And I say this a lot, is I don't really like to play on the 4th string as a root if I'm playing fingerstyle and stuff, because I just don't have as much available to me. I'll do it. Sometimes I'll put the bass on the 5th string for a D chord, play 5-4, so that you're not really starting on the root. If I'm in the key of D, I'm going to drop my 6th string down to D and play and drop D. And then that turns that D shape down here into a 6th string root chord because you have the D now on 6. If I'm in any other key, D is not the tonic, the 1, it's a 4 or a 5 or whatever it is. And so you can, invert it. So instead of having a D on the 4th string, you can take the 3rd and put it on the 4th string or 6th string, and now you have like a 2-string 6 to 4 bass string movement. And a lot of times I kind of just think of this chord with my 2nd finger on the A, so I have all these other guys available to do what I want to do. And this one I have a tendency to drop a lot in my hand. So let's just try this D major with the F sharp with our thumb. Now, if you want a D minor chord, then you're going to use your thumb on the 1st fret, and then you're going to kind of get that sound. We do the exact same thing, except we go 6 to 4 with that F natural. It's almost an F chord. The D and the F are very close. So here's that guy. Now, if you have trouble doing the 1 note, you can do 2 of each of the scale notes with 2 different basses. So to use, like, go back to the C for a second, instead of going, you could just do 2 of each as you rotate the bass. I call it singles as doubles. It's helpful in a lot of applications. That way you know if you've got it turned around, if your thumb changes. So in later lessons, like I said, I'll be going up the neck. You can find this PDF on my website where you can find my book. If you like this, subscribe, pass it along. I'm just kind of doing this stuff this year for fun and trying to get a, hang of using the video and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's it. So have a good time with it. And if you have any questions, you can look me up. I teach via Skype, and I also teach, in the Metro Detroit area at my home in Detroit, and also at my music school out in Lake Orion, Michigan.